Dear colleague, I try to present my speech about the theme freedom of artistic expression and protection of the dignity of religion in the light of a lawsuit over theatric performances in the Czech Republic. I have to apologize me because I am ill. I have COVID-19 and my state of health isn't too good. Therefore, I try to record it, but I am not sure how will be the quality of it. I will show the term in 4 steps. The first 3 steps can show us the legal situation in different periods. The third period is the period of the democratic Czechoslovakia. It means from 1918, since the origin of Czechoslovakia, to 1948, when the Communist Party came to the power. It is exactly with the exception of year 1938 to 1945, the Second World War. The second period should be the period of communist power, and the third period, so communist power 1948 to 1989. The third period is the actual period since 1990 until today, and the fourth part will be the presentation of the lawsuit, and I hope it can be interesting for you. So I will show in each period constitutional guarantee of freedom of religion, of artistic expression, and some rules or norms from the penal code. The first Czechoslovak constitution was from the late 1920, and this constitution speaks very clear about the freedom of religion, and also very clear about the limits of it. This exercise is not in conflict with public order and order or good moral. But about the artistic expression, it is very similar. As you see, it is very vast, this freedom, but there is a very clear limit, as it does not violate criminal law or penal law. So let us see then penal law. It is a very old act, just from the time of Austrian Empire, from 1852, Regierungsgesetzblatt, and there are 2 important texts speaking about the limitation of artistic freedom. First is the paragraph 122, religious disturbance. And you can see, especially here, that the state was in favor of Christian religion. Another text is in paragraph 303, which could be more interesting for us because of theatric performances. And we can say this paragraph regulates other crimes that the paragraph 122. So these two paragraphs together give the limit for the artistic expression, and it is important to say that in this period there was not so often that somebody would violate these paragraphs. It was against the spirit of good citizenship. So we can come to the second period, the communistic one. There were two constitutions. First, from year 1948, this constitution played also important role. Then President of Czechoslovakia, Edvard Beneš, refused to sign this constitution as too socialistic, and resigned to his duty of president. There is very clear said that there is very big guarantee of the religion's freedom, but it cannot lead to refuse a full civil duty imposed by law. It was important, especially for testimony of Jehovah, who didn't want to take part on the military service, and after them, since 1990, even of civil service. So it was practically very limited by this. The constitution from May 1960, so-called socialist constitution, which begins with the statement that the socialism has won in Czechoslovakia, says that the freedom of religion is guaranteed, but it is not possible to act when it is against the law. And the laws, especially from year 1949, was so several toward all religious societies and churches that it was practically excluded that the religious freedom can be full. When we speak about the freedom of artistic expression, there are also some limits. The first limit in the Constitution from 1949 repeated the limitation from the Constitution of 1920. They do not violate criminal law. And very important is the end of paragraph 20. This right may be restricted by law only with regard to the public interest and the cultural needs of the people. We see another text. All cultural policy are conducted in the spirit of scientific worldview, Marxism-Leninism. And it was important to eliminate the survivors of an exploitative society, so-called bourgeoisie survivors. And especially religious faith was described as bourgeois survival. When we speak about the public interest and cultural need of the people, there is a question: who will decide about it? And the answer is clear. The avant-garde of the working class the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia. Therefore, the kind of arts which has been designated as progressive were allowed and sometimes protected by the public institution. On the other hand, so-called decadent arts, decadent kinds of arts were prohibited, and the actors didn't obtain the permission to be active in theater, in music, to publish their paintings, and so on. The only possibility was to organize it in an unofficial way, but it was very difficult because each assembly, for example, the underground concerts, were unallowed assembly, and therefore it was a criminal act. When we speak about the Constitution from 1960, yes, I showed it just. Now the penal code. During this period, there were also two penal codes from 1950 and 1961. 1950 was very, very severe. The sanctions were very, very big, 10, 20 years, the pen of morts, of deaths, and so on. There lacks some special norm regarding the religious freedom and the protection of religious freedom. Only general norms which speak of groups of population, not about singular, but of groups. And therefore, it was very, very useful that the individuals were exposed to the public defamation. I myself remember it was several times in the school who frequent the lessons of religion. We were only two in the class, and it was also a kind of defamation. The third period, very important, is the Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms, accepted in 1991 as federal act just before the split of Czechoslovakia, and after the split of Czechoslovakia as law number 2, 1993, law number 1, 1993, is the Constitution of Czech Republic, which doesn't contain human rights and freedoms, but it gives a link, especially to the Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms. As you see, there is rather vast extent of this freedom. The freedom of artistic creation is set very, very quickly, very simply. Penal code goes in the same direction as before. There is the defamation of groups of persons, not of single person. And there is the question if the concrete behavior is offension, defamation of group or of single persons. Now the fourth part, the last part. In May 2018, during the Theatre World Festival of Experimental Theatre, there was two performances of Croatian author Oliver Frljić, which had a very big echo in the public. You can read what is the most difficult in these two performances. And I can say some comments to it. The holding of these performances aroused a great wave of resistance. First, the city council didn't approve official support for these two performances. And it is interesting that in addition to the Christian Democratic Union, which is comprehensive, also the communists, the Communist Party of Bohemia and Moravia, voted against this support. And also the regional office didn't give financial support to these two performances, only to the other performances of this festival. Before the performances, especially before the second one, there were very strong protest demonstrations in several places in the city of Brno, especially organized by Christians. A protest was connected with the performance itself. It means the second performance. A group of 25 members from the Decent People Association, mainly men, but some women, after the beginning of the production, all violence and your violence burst onto the stage of the theater. The name of the theater is Goose on a String, and formed a chain in front from the actors, thus separating the actors and spectators and interrupting the performance. They explain to the audience their reasons why they interrupted the performance, which is indecent from their point of view. However, most of the audience disagreed with this group, applauded the actors, and shouted the decent people away. After about an hour, an anti-conflict police team arrived, and the theater arrived at the theater, and the performance continued. All 25 members were fined. Most of them appealed, and it is also a typical thing for Czech offices. Before all the bureaucratic machinery had been completed, the obligation to pay the fines was time-bound. There were also some actions to the tribunal, to the court in Brno. But I have the access only to one of these performances, which is, according to me, very important. The plaintiffs are two physical persons, Cardinal Dominik Duka, then president of the Czech Bishops' Conference, and his lawyer Roland Němec. They are not relative. Defendants were Center for Experimental Theatre in Brno at National Theatre in Brno, because also the scene, the Goose, belongs to the National Theatre. The subject of the dispute was at least these four. First, personal protection. They wanted to receive apology from both defendants, both applicants, because of defamation of religious symbols. The second, protection of personal dignity, defamation of saint symbols, the right to equality without dangers. Plaintiff cannot sue a performer and offends Muhammad in such a way and force interference with the right to freedom of religion expression. Plaintiff could not identify themselves with a person raping a Muslim woman or Islam. The lawsuit had just three courts. First instance, municipal court in Brno in March 2019. Second instance, regional court in Brno, November, and third instance, Supreme Court of the Czech Republic in April 2021. All three instances refused the actions, and they said, first, there is applicant lack of active legitimacy because nobody of the applicants was present at the performances. They only see the recording at internet. Second, applicant lack of protection of the state flag because the state flag is public symbol and the protection of it belongs to the public authorities, not to private persons, physical persons. Especially very long discussion is consecrated to the collision of prevailing freedom of artistic expression or other freedoms, especially because of it that the author with the description of the performances, which is also available on internet and also it was in the theater, says that he wants to provoke discussion on very important topics. When we speak about the performance, the malediction, it is consecrated especially to the sexual abuse in religious entities. And the author says that especially in the Catholic Church, the sexual abuse is so often that it is necessary to express it by the fellatio of John Paul II. The second performance, Our Violence, Your Violence, shows some violences connected with religion, not only with Christian religion, but also with Muslim religion. But at the end prevails the Christian religions. Therefore, the courts said that the means of the author are extreme, but they are reasonable, especially race to the description of the goal of the performances. Cardinal Duca and his lawyer didn't want to be content with these decisions, and they presented other complaint with the Constitutional Court in June 2021, which doesn't be just discussed. And as I speak with them, they want to bring this case to the European Court of Human Rights. So we will see the results. So it is what I wanted to say. excuse my bad pronunciation because I am very tired because of the illness. And I am not sure if I will be present at Friday. Goodbye.